Hello everyone, welcome back to Kanga TV, the home of North Melbourne fans, and welcome to the second video as part of my 2025 player previews list analysis for North Melbourne heading into season 2025. If you haven't watched the first video of this series, I would suggest you do so. It'll help give flow and make sense of the videos that are to come in the next couple of weeks. That first video, I just released it a few days ago. It's me trying to put together my best 23 for North Melbourne in season 2025. Keeping in mind that list and that side was developed as if every single North Melbourne player would be fit and available and ready for selection in round one. We do have a relatively healthy list at this stage of the preseason, but we're still 6 weeks away from getting into any real nitty gritty, and so I would highly recommend kicking off with watching that video first. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the backline and the defense as a whole. So today I'm just going to talk about the defense, and for me, the defense has been probably the most improved area of the ground for North Melbourne over the past 12 months. It's crazy to sit here and think about where we were at the end of season 2023 compared to where we are at the end of season 2024, looking forward to 2025. We had lost Ben Mackay to the Bombers through free agency. We had lost Griffin Logue late in 2023 to injury, an ACL injury, and didn't expect to see him whatsoever in season 2024. And we had Aidan Corr, who is capable yet inconsistent, would be the best way to describe him, heading into season 2024 as our number one key position defender. So it was looking a little bit lean, a little bit scary. We did expect a lot of changes in the backline. I think we rotated through 20 odd players in that backline over the course of season 2024. It kind of did take some time for the backline to gel, for them to find their form, and for us to really figure out what would be our best look defense sitting here now 12 months on. And I actually feel really good and really comfortable, not just with some of the players we've been able to develop, but how we all look now that we've kind of gelled as one. And for me, our backline, our best backline for the most part, looks pretty obvious. There's probably a couple players in there. Actually, I know there are a couple players that would be up for discussion, and we'll get to them, or him, a little bit later, I should say. But let's take a look at our backline. Let's take a look at who I've listed in North Melbourne's defence if I was to put together our best backline for season 2025, why they're there, what they can do for the club, and how I think they can help us improve as a whole in season 2025. Let's start with that man, Aidan Corr, who I have mentioned just previously. Like I said, heading into season 2024, he was our number one most experienced key position defender. And up until the start of 2024, I think he had shown signs that he was really capable of taking on the reins and really stepping up and being a premier defender for us. And then at other times, there was some brain fades and there was some signs that he was fumbly and he was making crucial mistakes, and that for me was just a bit of a worry, if I'm completely honest with you. I have put my hands up and have done a complete 180 on Aidan Corr, and I think his season in 2024 was pretty good, to be honest. I think he pulled together a very solid season. It was only the second time in his entire career that he was able to pull a complete season together. He played every single game. Previously, due to injury, he hasn't been able to find continuity in his own game and in his body to be able to hit the park and stay on the park for all 23 games of the season. He did so this year, and he was a really, really important asset for North Melbourne in 2024. I think the biggest thing for me was the shift in role for him, and he was finally able to play to his strength of being that one-on-one defender rather than being an intercept defender. He definitely is stronger one-on-one in the contest. He isn't beaten out too often as well, and I think that when we allowed him to play to his strength, then he really rose to the occasion, and he really led the backline quite solidly. When he was playing alongside Mackay and Griffin Logue, they obviously were both, I mean, Mackay was also a bit of an intercept defender, but it kind of forced Aidan Corr to play a role maybe he wasn't as comfortable with. So he looked really comfortable and he looked like he was in control for a lot of this season. And I think that allowed him to flourish as a defender. And it's weird to say that because he's 30 and he's been in the system for over a decade now. But I think that move allowed him to really flourish as a defender. And he gained a lot of confidence as the weeks goes on. I mean, we all know the kind of highlight reel that he put together with the sidestepping and selling of the candy and the bench pressing on Bo McQuarrie, which lives rent-free in my head to this day. I was really impressed with the season that that he put together. I also feel like him stepping up and stepping into a role of being a really reliable lockdown defender allowed us a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility for that brief moment when Griffin Logue did return to the side. So Griffin Logue played 2 games in season 2024 against Carlton and against Geelong in rounds, I think it was 19 and 20 respectively. And I'll remember that Carlton game because our backline looked so strong with Logue, Corr and Comben as a 1-2-3. And then even in that game, we were able to shuffle the magnets in game and move Charlie Comben forward, and he ended up kicking 3 goals in a quarter. So I think versatility is such a key element of Clarko's game style as a whole, and I think that's something that he values really highly, and the changes we've made to our list over the past few months would suggest that. And the new positions we're finding players training in, a lot of them are training in multiple positions, so they can add those extra elements to their game. Now, not everyone is required to do that. Aidan Corr would be one of them, but for him to be able to step up and really deliver in a backline sense and in that one-on-one sense, it does allow Charlie Comben that flexibility to go forward and allows us to kind of have those options. I really think that Aidan Corr can be a really solid asset for us once again in season 2025. I also think his task in season 2024 was quite daunting, to be perfectly honest with you. He's going in playing alongside Charlie Comben, who has played a handful of games in his career and has never tried out as a defender. He's also playing with Callan Dawson, who is just as inexperienced. And while these guys are professionals and while they have trained together and they've been at the club, all of them have been at the club for a few seasons now, it's not the same as actually playing together as a unit. So for him to be able to adapt to that role quite quickly and thrive in it and probably have one of his best seasons to date, I think that really is a reflection on the kind of asset that he is to our side, the fact that we really can start to rely on him, and when he is playing alongside other defenders who are as experienced and can rise to the occasion alongside him with continuity and with consistency as the group develops as a whole and as the side develops as a whole, I think he'll really benefit from that, and in turn the side will really benefit from him being able to shine through. So it was Aidan Corr steering the ship in 2024, and Charlie Comben came in and assisted him in the best way possible. I think it's fair to say he was one of our gems and one of our rising stars, for lack of a better word, in season 2024. We all knew that Charlie Comben was a capable footballer. He had shown signs in the previous season before breaking his ankle in early 2023. We know what he's like up forward. He's dynamic, he's exciting, he's got a great leap. So to move him down back and for him to have the impact that he had, I mean, it was almost like we all knew it was going to happen, but to see it actually come to life and to see that plan come to life was absolutely remarkable. And for Chom to resurrect his career the way that he did in defense was just absolutely remarkable. His fearlessness, he just has absolutely no hesitation when throwing himself into every single contest. He's got a great set of hands. He took a plethora of impressive contested marks and intercepting marks as well. He really just floated along the back line and was having an impact everywhere around the ground. Like I mentioned before, in that Carlton game when he moved up forward and ended up kicking 3 goals in a quarter, knowing that the plan is to move him up forward in the long term, I think is a really good one. I think getting him to play down back to get some confidence in himself and in his body, which is something that he probably has lacked for quite some time now, given his injury interruptions throughout his career. I think it was an excellent move by Clarko, and it one that paid off in spades for us. Like I said, it really gave us so many options, not just on the day when we needed it, but then when we did have players start to come back, we could shuffle the magnets in game, and he was fantastic, and he's really become a real cult figure at North Melbourne in the past season, absolutely. And I feel like having him down back for another season will really help us out, not just help his development personally, but help us out as a side. I think it's so important for us to be able to actually get a little bit of consistency and continuity in the side that we're putting out every single week on the park. The first half of the season for North was really challenging because we had so many moving magnets and we were trying so hard to fill gaps and figure out what our best look side was. So then by the time we hit the mid part of the season and we did start hitting form after the bye, as everyone remembers, it's because we had a lot of players in the same positions. We had players who started to play together for 8-9 weeks in a row. They knew each other. They knew how each other played. They knew not to get in each other's way. And that evidently led to more success on the scoreboard in terms of results and just in terms of our general play and competitiveness as well. So expecting Charlie Comben to stay down back at least for another season or two while Jack Darling does take the second key forward position in 2025 and beyond. Griffin Logue is obviously the other one. It would be great to have Griffin Logue ready to go by round 1. He is a really, really good player, and I didn't probably give him the credit that he deserved until he was gone and then came back, if that makes sense. So our backline, once they found their groove in season 2024, it was actually a really great sight to see. You know, we had Chom and we had Aidan Corr. Callan Dawson had a really good start to the season. We threw Biggie down back a little bit. We threw Toby Pink down back a little bit. Will Dawson had a crack as well. So there was quite a few names that floated through the defense, and they were able to kind of make things work. We were able to hold up really nicely as a defensive unit. But then when Griffin Logue did come back for those 2 games, you kind of just sit there and think, wow, you're a really good footballer and you actually are a really great asset to this side and you do make us better. And I'm really, really looking forward to him coming back. It's so easy to forget sometimes how much one player can impact your side. And I think that he definitely adds that. And just, again, it's the same thing. It's the lockdown ability that he's got. It's that one-on-one. He's rarely beaten in a contest. And I think that if we are able to get him back on the park, fit, firing, ready to go, he'll be a great asset for us again in 2025. If 2024 was the year of Charlie Comben, then it was most certainly also the year of Jackson Archer, the son of club champion Glenn Archer, really cementing himself on the game and on North Melbourne's best 23. He played 15 games in 2024, none bigger, I would say, than his performance on Melbourne's Bailey Fritsch. He also was nominated for the Rising Star in round 21 after he played Richmond. He had a sensational game as well. He is everything that the Archer name stands for. He absolutely lives up to the legacy that his dad has set. He is relentless. He is fearless. He doesn't hesitate when just throwing himself at everything. Goes back with the flag at the ball so courageously. He's a tackling machine. He's hungry and he's talented. I think that's the other thing. It's not like he's just got this courageous blueprint and doesn't really have anything else to him. He is such a great asset for us. And in those 15 games, he was also able to get his body right. And once he came into the side, he had an immediate impact and he was undroppable and unstoppable. And now he's going into season 2025 as such an important part of that backline. He's so young. He's only just turned 23. He's got such a bright future at North Melbourne, and he is a real asset for us when we're looking at opposition small and medium forwards, I beg your pardon. It's become a really important part of the game now to have a dynamic forward line, to have small forwards who can really impact a game, and they can almost be the difference. You look at Richmond's premiership side from, 5 or 6 years ago, they were often going in with one key forward, sometimes just the two, and it was their medium and small forwards who were really carrying the weight of the forward line. So to be able to have someone like Jacko, who we know has the ability to completely shut his opposition out of the game, is such a strong asset for us. I feel like he will only get better as well. I don't think we've seen his ceiling just yet, and I'm really hoping we can see more from him in 2025 when he hopefully is able to hit the park for 23 games. That would just be the dream. Obviously, that's the dream with all of them, but for his role in the side to just completely take the best small forward or best medium forward from the opposition and just completely minimize their impact on the game. If he can do that on a week-to-week basis, or at least back up a performance if he feels like he hasn't had the best week. The Bobby Hill example against Collingwood is probably the best. Bobby Hill got the better of Jackson Archer on his day, but the way Jacko responded the week later against the D's on Bailey Fritsch was probably his breakout game for what I could say anyway. And I really feel like there's more to come for Jacko. Like I said, it's really just about consistency and continuity. That's sort of going to be the buzzword for me with this whole backline, I think, in 2025. So really looking forward to seeing what he can do and feel like he'll probably only get better with experience and with time. Moving on to the new element of our backline, and Caleb Daniel is going to bring an element of composure to our defence that we maybe haven't had for quite some time, and it's not to disrespect the likes of Zach Fisher and even Zeebs when he moved down back later in his career, and even Dan Howe. I can't believe I'm even saying that name. I thought I'd be long beyond that name, but Dan Howe as well, when they were in sort of that position in the previous few seasons there. I really like Zach Fisher. I love the intent that he had, and you can never again question his effort, but he just butchered the ball way too many times coming out of defense and probably put us under a lot more pressure than necessary. We were already under copious amounts of pressure, and I do think there is a spot for Zach Fisher in this side in 2025 and beyond. It may be down back if Caleb Daniel can't deliver to the levels that we're expecting him to, but he's got a really reliable kick, and we know he's a smart decision maker under pressure, and so I really think he's going to be such an exciting element and just a really reliable. It's nice to have players you can rely on. You kind of know week in, week out that they're going to do their job, what they're going to do. Caleb Daniel maybe wasn't utilised in the best way over at the Dogs, particularly in his last few seasons there. So I really feel like if we allow him to play with a bit of freedom and just trust that he can play his game, he'll really be a key in moving the ball out of our defence and transitioning it up the ground and being a link between our key defenders and the midfielders. I really like Caleb Daniel. I've always been a fan of his, and I think that what he is able to bring to North is something that we really, really need. Just like I said, a solid kick, a reliable kick, and someone that we know can hit the target more often than not, which is crazy in this game that that's something that should just be a given. But here we are really gloating about his ability to make smart decisions and execute those decisions well out of defence. It's something that's really, really crucial for a side who is constantly under siege. That backline is constantly under pressure and is constantly in situations where they're just panicking to get the ball out. So to get the ball in his hands more often than not, I think is going to do us a great service. And finally, the most divisive player amongst the backline, I've listed Luke McDonald in my best 23. I know a lot of fans will probably disagree with that, but I feel like his presence and his meaning to the side as a whole is probably a lot greater than a lot of people and a lot of fans would give him credit for. For a side like North Melbourne, it is really important to still have your spiritual leaders. It's important for any club, but especially for a club who has been struggling on field for quite some time, potentially has lost their way in terms of identity and in terms of brand. I know that at times it kind of feels like the meaning of North Melbourne and what this club should mean and what this club does mean at its core has potentially got lost a little bit from time to time in the past few seasons, and we have been down and out. And, lingering at the bottom of the ladder is not fun for anyone, and it can potentially be hard for some players to really grasp what it means to be a North Melbourne person and potentially what it means to be at North Melbourne and to know exactly what this brand is about when it hasn't necessarily been clear for a lot of people this whole time. We, as North supporters, choose to support the club. A lot of us that have inherited it from generations before us, and maybe it wasn't a choice. I mean, it's not my choice to be a North supporter. I inherited it from my dad, but I'm so passionate about the club and I love the club, and it's a club that I have really dedicated a lot of my life to. But for a lot of these players, it's their job. And I know it's not a normal job, but maybe the meaning and the emotion and the passion for the jumper and for the club may not come as naturally, but you can never question that with Luke McDonald. And he's a North supporter. His dad, Donald, famously played for North, and he'd been in administration roles for decades after that, and he's only just really transitioned out of that in the past couple of years. And Luke McDonald, this club means as much to him as it does for any of the rest of us sitting here watching it and supporting the club. And I don't think you can underestimate what his presence could mean to his teammates. You've also got to remember that captains and leadership group are voted in by the players. So he is someone that the players really admire and really respect and really look up to. And that alone, I think, carries a lot of weight, probably more than a lot of us want to admit, or maybe more than a lot of us want to really acknowledge. Do I think he's got to lift his game on field? Yeah, of course, definitely. He would also know that. I think there are definitely times where you just sit there and shake your head and think, what are you doing? As a captain, you've got to set the standard and you've got to be the one to drive standards on field. I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I don't think Luke McDonald is all that bad. I feel like with Luke McDonald and to an extent Aidan Corr as well, they could do 9 things right, 1 thing's wrong, and it's the one thing that they've done wrong that is at the epicenter of every post-game review from fans. I think we probably need to just shift the mindset a little bit and potentially shift what we can expect from Luke McDonald. I think that we should expect him to be solid and to absolutely deliver in defense. And I think more often than not, he probably does, but then you've got a silly mistake here and there, and maybe that's the trade-off that we have to make. I'm not 100% sure. For what it's worth, I think Luke McDonald will start in our best 23, but I would hope that the likes of a Goda in particular, potentially even a Miller Bergman, and maybe a Riley Hardiman as well, but Riley Hardiman has been training on the wing a little bit. Don't know where his position will be in 2025, but particularly a Josh Goda, I think, is the one for me where I want you to perform well enough that you're giving Clarko a reason to question McDonald's spot in the side. And I mean this with the greatest of respect because I do really like Luke McDonald, but I don't think that there's been anyone in his position that has consistently been banging down the door for opportunity. I would like to see a Goda in there. I'd like to see a Bergman in there, but they maybe haven't necessarily shown that they are worthy of coming into the side. This is the thing with season 2025 North Melbourne. There needs to be competition for spots. No one should really be gifted spots. And I think Luke McDonald has been a really fierce, tough competitor and set standards from an effort and an intent perspective for so long that I would really want someone who was going to replace him to show that they're worthy of replacing him and not just replacing him for the sake of it. And I know that's probably an opinion that a lot of people will disagree with, and that's okay. But I think at the start of the season, he starts in the 23, and by the end of the season, if he's replaced by somebody who is performing better than him, then we know that we've come far, I think, and I think we've come a certain way forward with our development as a side overall. So I think that is going to be the one member of the backline in this 6 that I've just listed from the start who will be under the most pressure and will be under the microscope, and I think we'll be watching him really closely and where he's at mid-year and where he's at the end of the year, and we'll review this mid-year and end of year. And if his name is still in the frame, then maybe the side hasn't developed as good or as well as we had hoped over the past season, and maybe there's some work to do and some questions to be asked about the players who should be rising to the occasion to take Luke McDonald's spot. While I feel like our backline is in the best position it has been for quite some time, there is only so much that they're going to be able to do, and there's only so much they're going to be able to stop if they're under siege. And that is something that's just across the competition. That's not just about North Melbourne in particular, but North did concede the most inside 50s in season 2024, and I feel like there needs to be a bit of responsibility and a bit of onus on our midfielders and our defenders as well to lift their defensive game. It can't just be the backline holding up as best that they can. It's got to be about our forwards tackling inside our forward 50 to retain possession and to keep the ball inside our forward 50 and to give ourselves repeat entries and opportunities to score and to hit the scoreboard. It's got to be more than our midfielders just kicking the ball in hope into our forward 50. How many times did we see the ball just bombed into our forward 50 in season 2024? This is actually a problem we've had before 2024, but how often have we seen the ball bombed into our forward 50, blind in hope, the opposition defender takes an uncontested mark, and with one kick, they're out, and the ball's being transitioned at lightning pace up to the other end of the ground? Way too many times for me to count. It is so frustrating, and it's a small thing that could alleviate so much pressure off our backline because we're actually allowing ourselves a number of opportunities to score. We're giving ourselves 3, 4, 5 times a repeat entry. We're putting pressure on the opposition when they're leaving the forward 50. We're making better connection from the midfielders to the forward lines when we're entering our forward 50. We're hitting them out. We're giving them the best chance to take a contested mark. We're giving them the best chance to lead into space and to actually take an uncontested mark. Or we are tackling and we're keeping the ball at the ground level so those coming forwards and those medium-sized forwards can pick up the ball and kick a goal. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's more to this than just the backline being good and the backline being able to hold up. And yeah, that is obviously important. But Griffin Logue's an excellent defender. Aidan Corr had a fantastic season. Charlie Comben has got one of the best contested and intercept marks in the competition, all in a year. Jackson Archer, we know what he's capable of. Caleb Daniel, even Luke McDonald. These guys are all capable. There's just only so much they can do, and we're leaving them exposed, and we're leaving them vulnerable to a siege. At times, we would finish off a game in season 2024, and we've conceded 30 inside 50s more to the opposition. What chance do our defenders have then? I feel like we need to play to our defenders' strengths as best as possible, and we need to work better defensively as a unit and also make smarter decisions when disposing of the ball and going into our forward 50 as well. But as a whole, our defense needs to be better to allow our back line to really stand up and be the difference when we need them to be. That is where I will leave it today, guys. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think North's best backline looks heading into season 2025, and who are you most excited to see out on the park? Leave all of your comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are getting so much closer to season 2025 starting. I can't wait. You guys know how excited I am to share this season with you all. Let's continue the conversation over on socials as well. Facebook. I now have Facebook. Yes, it's so exciting, along with Instagram and X. Kanga TV show. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon.